flag. One to go, next time by, line up on the right side. The estimated SOF is 786. Pit road is closed. Let's go points racing. to go green, stay focused. Pace car is in. There's an incident ahead, slow car ahead, right side, keep to the left, go left, still left, clear, right side, stay on the left, keep to the left, stay on the left, clear on the right. 5. Clear. Go on your left. flag, checker flag. Great job, you did really well.
There's one clear challenge now for Verstappen, but of course we've now got this tricky situation where those who are on alternative strategies, having pitted earlier initially, they're now going further. So once again he rejoins in behind the M3 Touring. And was that windscreen wipers on for the Manthey Porsche? There's been this spectre of rain sort of looming over us for the last half an hour or so. And I think there's a chance that we've got some weather on the Grand Prix circuit. We'll wait and see if that develops at all. Some work going on here to
whatsoever. And Pavel Lefterov has taken over the number 7 Conrad Lamborghini. He was more like a 3 minutes 20, so dropped about 3 seconds from the optimum time in the pit stop. You never know what's going on around these cars, though, in terms of how quickly the work can commence, in what angle the car is in as well, because it goes up on the dolly jacks and often wheeled into a 45-degree angle. Yeah, that's a little bit of just give and take that we're going to see all the way through this race. 21 hours and 43 minutes still to go.
Through that slow zone there, while that repair job is being done, the 60-kilometre-an-hour board, the purple board being shown, the drivers have to adhere to the speed limit through this section of track there. The Verhagen BMW M3 Touring, that's the job that's ensuing there. We have the kind of this rolling road affair on the 25-kilometre course here at the Nürburgring, and repairs to the barrier. Very efficient, I've got to say, with a lot of experience of that very thing here at the Nürburgring. Once you clear that area, you then get the green flag. You can then accelerate up to racing speed. And at the moment, we've got another slow zone, I believe, around by Plantsgarten. I'll just confirm that, actually, while you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, those three there. So you got Guven in the Manthey Porsche, and then Neil Verhagen in the M3 Touring, and Verstappen in the Windward racing car. There's only about 5 or 6 car lengths between them as they went through that slow zone, where that Audi had gone off quite some time ago now that we mentioned the first of our slow zones. It did all the barrier damage on the right-hand side. The Ferrari, of course, had done the damage on the left-hand side of the barrier onto the at and back, and that's going to take even longer to repair. So those code 6s are going to affect, wouldn't be surprised if it's a majority of this stint, to be honest, Johnny.
Decisions, really quick decisions, having to be made virtually around every other corner for Max Verstappen and everybody else in this race. Finding traffic, then working out whether you can go off the racing line and not lose too much time, or do you need to be patient, because catching slower runners into corners like Tiergarten and also obviously the carousel, sometimes you just got to be patient and sit behind them and wait for a better opportunity. But Verstappen is catching Neil Verhagen up ahead in the red, white and black M3 Touring. They go the high side of one of the maybe Mulner Motorsport prepared cars. Yeah. It was certainly that sort of livery, approaching Bergwerk. And now Aston Martin number 34, which, remember, cut short one of its pit stops when Nicky Team only did a 7-lap stint when there was code 60 out on the track at Schwedenkreuz, and the 34 car of Christian Krognes leads by not very much at all over Dennis Olsen's Ford.
Aston Martin, Ford, we wait for the rest of the Goyven is showing on his outlap. He'll come through in the number 911, the Porsche, the Manthey car that came into the pits from the lead of this race, as Dennis Olsen chases the Volcanos Motorsport Aston here. We've got a race there, cars right on the edge of adhesion there, up towards the carousel, the infamous carousel, the iconic part of the track here through the right-hander. And does that track look damp to you guys? I mean, there is some light rain that is forecast here.
Well, it's due about now, and when it does start, according to my forecast, which doesn't mean to say it's going to happen, but the app I'm using, it does suggest the rain is about to start soon, and if it is, it's going to continue quite heavily until around about midnight.
एक सेकंड तू ये जानना चाहती है ना कि मैं ई-कॉमर्स लॉजिस्टिक्स कैसे संभालता हूँ? हाँ। शिप रॉकेट शिपिंग से। इस पे 25+ कुरियर पार्टनर्स, स्मार्ट कुरियर एलोकेशन, AI-लेड एनडीआर ऑटोमेशन, सेल्फ डैशबोर्ड और भी बहुत कुछ जो ऐप से भी मैनेज हो जाता है। शिप रॉकेट शिपिंग पे आओ, ई-कॉमर्स लॉजिस्टिक्स की टेंशन भगाओ।
Giving them the opportunity to race here in this iconic race. It is special, this race, isn't it?
Oh, hugely. I would say it's like potentially the most special. It is.
It's a kind of
that's it. We're childish schoolboy every time.
And we've been away for 10 months.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you come back and you go, this is off the charts.
But you have to recalibrate your mind. You come here from a conventional track like Spa, or the Circuit of Catalunya at where the lap time is 90 seconds or something, or 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes is a long lap. What's the lap at Spa in a GT3, Snowy?
Around about these days 2:20s.
There you go.
Yeah.
25 kilometres around here. You have to absolutely. There are some sectors on this lap that are longer than that Spa lap time. So that's what I mean about recalibrating your mind to take in the challenge of this event.
Oh, he's got the jump.
Oh,
Dennis
yes.
Olsen got the jump on the Aston Martin of Christian Krognes, who either didn't see the green flag waving or he couldn't jink left quick enough. And Dennis Olsen in that chasing 67 Ford Mustang takes the race lead as a result. So he's heading up towards, out of Stefan Beloff S, which I knew was affected by yellow, but he's not going to be that long before the yellow flags are shown again at Galgenkopf. And the first bit of the Dottinger Höhe and the Aston Martin number 34 is not that far away for Norwegian racer Krognes.
I wish we had access to the car to pit radio at Valkenhorst right now, because Krognes will be having something to say about that. He was unbelievably caught napping for that. I've never seen anything quite like that, but he's on the hunt now, but he will be absolutely fuming by the Dennis Olsen in the HRT4 just jumped straight past.
What's he going to be fuming about, though? It's his job. It's his job
I know, exactly. At himself as a driver.
I see what you mean.
So he'll be fuming at himself, just going, why have I let that happen? I've just got the lead of the N24 hour. Bradley said it's the most amazing race, and I've just thrown away the lead.
I thought you meant he was going to be on his radio blaming someone.
No, himself.
A spotter. He's the best. He's the best spotter, actually.
Jill, no.
I'm a bit concerned about two cars that are off. I'm always concerned about cars that are off. One looks sort of SP9 shaped, and maybe both of them do, but this is a long way away, so
It's got a tailgate. I mean, it's.
I think that's the front, but I'm concerned.
I'm not sure it is. Is it the front or the back that's up? It's not exactly as it's shaped as it left in the factory, is it?
Agreed. Anyway, an update to come on that. But meantime, Ayhancan Guven, running third on the road, has now a 4-time Formula 1 world champion right on his tailpipes. Max Verstappen, who's squirming around. Now, we did hear word that it was raining at Brunchen, but I would suggest that grip levels aren't great coming out of Hohenrhein either, and back onto the Grand Prix track.
There's nothing on the windows of our commentary, but yes, it is. It's spitting. It is spitting. Looking out of the window here, you can just see by the bridge. Yes, it is starting to spit.
Down the inside of Guven, who was struggling to get the Porsche stopped, and it's definitely raining at the Ravenel S. So these cars are on slick tyres, remember. I don't think feel that enough of this massive Nordschleife lap is wet enough to have pitted, but this is going to be a launch into the unknown now. Slick tyres, OK, they're red hot because they're in the middle of a race, but where's the grip is the big question, and this is all down to feel, Snowy.
Yeah, and they will start to cool down a little bit if there's much water on the track, but it'll take a little while. You get the right up to temperature now. Verstappen caught up behind one of the Audis as it goes up down to the hairpin at the bottom end. We've got the 821 Audi to spin at, is that Hatzenbach? That's Matt Hilder in the 821 Audi, just doing a 3-point turn and rejoining.
Does look a lot like Hatzenbach, and actually the tyre wall that yesterday Thomas Neubauer got very, very close to during his qualification lap. That Ferrari, sadly for Real Eyes, now looking like it's out of the race, but thankfully 821 spinning out of the path of anybody else wanting to go through on the racing line, and Heidler did a good job there.
Definite rain on the Grand Prix part of the Grand Prix circuit part of this track,
and increasing
clear to see. But also, gentlemen, information coming through that pass was under yellow. What we witnessed there, the
pass
when we went green, it was still under a waved yellow.
Pass for whom?
Dennis Olsen getting ahead of Christian Krognes.
Yes,
so the yellows were still there, you reckon?
Well, I'm getting messages here to say that was under a waved yellow. Okay. There was still a waved yellow flag.
Well, it did. My sense was it seemed very surprising that how he just jumped him. But and now we've got 577 off into the gravel. That's at is that the Schumacher S?
The Vidal chicane,
now, my apologies.
And that is the Asbest Racing Cupra Leon competition, and Dennis Leising driving 577. A moment or two ago then. Oh no, I think you're right, Snowy. That is the Michael Schumacher S. So it looked like the Vidal chicane from a much lower angle, but it's the next couple of corners out of the Goodyear Carer. You've raced here before, I can tell.
Dacia Logan's off as well. It says everything about these conditions, as you said, Johnny. It's going to start catching people out. Slick racing tyres on a dry track, they're red hot, yes, but that suddenly changes so quickly as Verstappen and Olsen go past the Dacia Logan at Hatzenbach, which is on the grass facing the wrong way at the moment.
I hope the Logan is still intact. It's going to mount the curb, it's going to spin on the grass, but yes, it's still straight. And that is great news for so many people that have come here supporting the 300 car of Oliver Krieser and Christian Geilfuss, Robert Neumann and Alexander Becker in their SP3T car. Problem is it may have stalled. It may have absolutely no traction now on the inside of that corner. But the marshals under yellow flags and potentially a code 60 will help it back on its merry way. So Verstappen, oh yes, see, I thought it might be an Audi. I actually almost said, is it the 16? That was the front of the car that I could see from a distance, that we wonder whether it maybe was a hatchback of a smaller car, but it's the 16 Scherer Sport Audi, which has been in the wall somewhere, and the driver was briefly getting out just to assess the damage and work out whether it might have to limp its way back. It's Alexander Sims, and that's an even bigger problem now with it's not technically the bonnet because the engine doesn't sit that end of the car, but the nose cover flicked back across the windscreen, Snowy.
Extensive front right damage. The bonnet's so big and curved at the back, when it comes up like that, which it's now come back up because of the wind, it actually clears the windscreen. So Alexander Sims has got full vision, but little else of that car left. And I've got to say, Johnny, there, full marks for recognising an Audi that didn't look anything like an Audi should do.
But the problem is for Audi fans, there's only one car in the race. Well, I mean, I suppose with the exception of the 75 that's already had a big damage. Sims then.
Sims redoing his seatbelt.
Exactly, I was just going to say.
He's been out of the car.
He has,
that's what Johnny said.
Sorry.
Been out to check it.
And he's pulled that bonnet up over his windscreen so that he can see to get the car back. He's
well, it just came up in the air, just came over there, but
it was down.
Obviously,
but
he's got back in the car and put the belts back on. You've got to retighten them, because if you're not, you can have a penalty and even be disqualified.
And we
for
saw
not having your belts tightened, exactly, because he's now back on the racetrack.
We saw clearly he did that as well. He did retighten them.
Quick thinking.
That's fine.
But there's a clever bit of Audi design here, which means that the nose cover of the car is semicircle shaped, almost providing the perfect visibility. Even when the bonnet is flicked across the screen, Alex isn't even having to duck down at all. He can perfectly see where he's going. The problem is not all four wheels are pointing in the same direction.
Now, Snow, you've driven racing cars that you've hurt like that, and when you are from the perspective of Alex Sims, how much can he feel? I mean, obviously he knows the car's damaged, he's been out of the car. He knows he's got a front suspension on the right-hand corner that is not where it should be and barely hanging on.
Well, the biggest problem is to get it back to the pitch. You're as from the point of view of the driver, you've made the mistake, so you're on a massive guilt trip already, because if you've made the mistake yourself, that's your problem. You've got the apologies to make, so you're grovelling on the radio already. But from an engineer's point of view and the rest of the team, you want to get the car back to the pits and back to them so that they can give it a chance to get it back into the race. But, so Verstappen has just done exactly the same on Neil Verhagen on the restart there that happened for Christian Groves and Dennis Alton. They swapped over, didn't they? So he's just done exactly the same there, so I'm not sure. I hope that was after the yellow and got the green flag. I'm sure he had. But back to the point, it is, you've got to bring it back as slowly as possible. You can feel all sorts. In that case, Alexander Sims' front right wheel is pointing far too much toe out. Not very healthy for it, but you don't want to make it any worse. So, as you said many a time, Joe, that racing drivers aren't taught to drive slowly. And what feels excruciatingly slow to you can still be too fast for more damage.
Yeah, and
it can actually create a bigger problem trying to get it back at speed.
Well, when you've been going around this track at 160 miles an hour, and especially at the part of the track that he's on now, he's down dotting a whole straight.
He's nearly done it.
He's usually doing 170 miles an hour here, so just knowing. I mean,
but that wheel's also stationary, Joe. Look, it's
the right-hand wheel. Yeah, I was about to say the right-hand wheel is locked by whatever the suspension part that has become rearranged in there. So that's probably going to be more beneficial than having it flailing around. He's still pushing on. He's almost there. He's got to go through this left-hand and right-hand sweep here at Tiergarten. He then goes into the final section of the Hohenrhein chicane, and then from there he can pretty much peel off to the right. With the rain, the light rain, certainly wetting the track there, we can clearly see the track becoming damp and almost bordering on becoming wet here. We haven't seen any spray coming from the rear of these cars yet, but this is the point where Alex Sims can just point the car towards the pit road, and he's made it back in a sterling effort. I think a round of applause there for getting that car back to the pit lane after a brilliant job, and not causing any more damage than he's already caused, I would think.
Did BID the other car involved in that?
No, is the quick answer to that one.
Okay.
What is interesting is the damage on the right-hand side, that right-hand wheel, and so we can see with the bonnet completely exposed now, we can see all the suspension exposed. The split is all intact, so it would suggest that he's lost it, gone off and hit the barrier with the wheel, which has done the damage to the suspension, as opposed to massive bodywork damage we saw to the Ferrari. So mechanics inspecting it straight away, and that car's going to be, I'm convinced, be rotated into the box, ready for some extensive repairs.
Questions coming in at RSL_studio. Hello, if you're just joining us, live and free across the world. No subscriptions required on the Nürburgring 24-hour official YouTube channel. Good to have your company on a busy motorsport weekend, but the Nürburgring taking centre stage as it often does. If you're travelling, you can flick over to RS1, part of the radio show network, or if your bandwidth compromised, or sitting in your car. We don't want you watching pictures when you're sitting in the car, so audio available as ever via the player at radio-show.co.uk.
flag, checkered flag. One to go, next time by, line up on the left side. The estimated strength of field is 791. Closed, pit road is closed. There are a lot of points on the table. Be smart and get a good finish. Five cars left to grid. About to go green, stay focused. Pace car is off. Looks like your car is towed. You'll need a tow back to pit lane. Press and hold the reset button and we'll come and get you. All the damage is repairable. Move it, move it. Left side. Clear on the left. Slow car ahead. Stay on the right, clear. Still there, hold your line. Still there, hold your line. Still there, hold your line. Clear on the right side. Clear, right side. Clear. Car right. You've been disqualified for too many incident points. Clear on the right.
from the N part of Hyundai, and that's come round full circle because there's two cars that from the N part this weekend that are proving technology for your next cycle of engines. These are pre-production development engines in two of your cars?
Yeah, two of our cars at this moment, which is number 302 and 303, is kind of one of the most important experimental program because we want to, make that story one more time. So, for example, after we finalized 2016 race and 2017 race with our pre-production engine, we got a great, appraisal from our fans and our customers that they really love the practicality and also sporty characteristics of the engine, and we want to do it again. So not like winning TCR 5 consecutive years, because TCR is a professional level race car and even faster than some other classes.
Yes.
But at the same time, Nürburgring is our very much experimental place, not only for the racing, but also making the production car. So we want to do it again one more time right before delivering new engines to our customers.
Yeah. So when you've got a successful engine like that, what do you look for in the next generation, the next stage of development? What are you sitting there and saying, how do we make something that's successful better?
So, for example, engine requires a lot of different, coolings and different, it is all about not only about making the power enough, but also about the durability and also the cooling and all those kind of components. We have a lot of different, data logging sets so that we are having all the data from Nürburgring 24 hours race and we are analyzing it until the end of our production engine. Yeah.
And you're a global brand.
Yeah.
So you're looking at not just EU7 regulations, which are coming up in the relatively near future. You've got to look at everything around the world, and we often talk about the planning schedules. We're used to things happening quite quickly in motor racing and being able to make changes. That side of things as well, because that's a world engine that you're running this weekend as a development.
Right. Not only for our performance motor, but also for our passenger cars. So the basic engine that we are using at this moment, it will be used for our passenger car. Not only the passenger car, but also our hand performance car with a different characteristic and different settings.
I saw something on the way back from here last night. Was it last night? It must have been the night before because it was still in daylight. Quite late.
All right.
Late getting. Oh no, it was last night when we were going home. I saw an N Blue Ioniq 5. So that is an N product.
Yeah, Ioniq 5N.
Yeah.
Ioniq, we have a EV high performance car as well. So Ioniq 5N and Ioniq 6N, which is recently launched. So we have like 650 PS from the two dual motor from the front and from the rear. But in terms of EV case, we want to open up the new category and new era to make to set the standard of EV performance. That was actually the main reason that we developed the Ioniq 5N. But the motorsports experience was very important because we want to have some kind of emotional performance as well by having e-shifting as well as all those kind of different sounds so that we can feel the speed and we can interact with the cars.
Just watching a pit stop for HRT, Dennis Olsen going in ahead of what's been a cracking battle through all those slow zones in the last third of the lap. And Maxime Martin just lost a position to Ajahn Mani in the HRT Ford Mustang number 64. That is right now the battle for 4th and 5th. Nicky Katzberg is not that far behind, another 1.5 seconds behind in the green and white car, and that all came again at the end of the Dottinger-Ho, a little jink to the left and then a step to the right, to paraphrase the time up, and into that same spot that we saw the overtake for the lead by Max Verstappen a few laps ago. He's still late. He did a 42.1 last time around, a 39.6 for the chasing cars. Ayhan Guven in second. Another forceful move in a position that isn't a regular overtaking spot there. You have to be absolutely sure of that, Peter.
I think that's a very, very kind
I was being
way of putting
diplomatic.
it. Very diplomatic way of putting it. My Arnie there, that was super, super brave, because we see so often the dotting over there that they get the draft done, they get the side draft done, pull up behind the kink and get the job done after the kink before you get to Tiergarten. It wasn't done, and he just went, I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going to send it anyway. And that took 2 of them to make that happen, by the way.
I wish, yes, indeed. Respect on both sides. Absolutely. Racing Room asked for and given. I wish you could have seen the smile on Impact's face there. You are a proper enthusiast for this.
Of course. I love cars, and I'm doing the track driving, drifting, and every single things which is related to the cars. And my favorite part is I'm meeting. Is to meet our fans all over the world. So we're operating like N Festival, which is one of the big one-make races in South Korea. Last weekend I operated the N Festival in South Korea, and we're also going to have some kind of fan meeting, which is kind of track day, which I'm playing together with the fans by driving our car and by having a taxi driver, being a taxi driver.
Race taxi driver.
Race taxi driver to our fans.
You guys have surprised a lot of people with things like the Ioniq, the tuned Ioniq with the sounds, with the shift points, etc.
Ioniq 5N.
Yeah, I absolutely love that concept, and it looked great in the blue, by the way, when I saw it down at Kelberg yesterday. Where's the next? You don't have to give me any super secrets, but you guys aren't finished yet, are you?
No, we just started. Yeah. We just started. So, for example, like unlike any other performance brand, which is already established. So, for example, they started like 1970s, 1980s, and so on and so forth. But we just started, and our first car was launched in 2017.
Yeah,
it's less than 10 years ago.
Yes.
So we are thinking that we just started, and then we have a lot of confidence and a lot of proud, because we are not just sitting in the office making the car by paper, but we are always on track and always with the customers, so that we can hear the customers' feedback, how to improve further. And this is why I'm in the community a lot, and we are talking and we are listening a lot to improve further, because we just started.
Can I ask a more strategic question about the group? So, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis as VW Club Sport, Benjamin Leuchter in the SP40. That's the number 50 car. They've been leading, actually they're down in second position there in that Club Sport. Incredibly, it's 50 years of GTI next year.
Right.
How did that happen? So there we're talking about 50, perfect. So 50 years of a Volkswagen sports brand. You've been around for 10 years or thereabouts. How does that fit within the overall group of Kia, Hyundai, Genesis in terms of Hyundai having its sports brand? Magma is coming on stream for Genesis, but that is still very brand new. The Magma GV60 looks fantastic as an EV car. Why was Hyundai the obvious choice between those brands 10 years ago to get that sporting and excitement level brand like N?
Okay, back in the days when I first started N, so it was December 2013 when I got the final signature from our chairman.
Did you have to fight hard for it?
Of course, at the time.
Really?
Yeah, really, a lot.
Because people weren't doing it then?
I mean, no, it's not like this, but our company, Hyundai, is very famous for very much reliable cars and very much family-driven cars and very much, normal cars. However, for me, as a car enthusiast, I actually wanted to be in the Hyundai because as a Korean, I want to have a performance brand on the Hyundai because it's a biggest South Korean car manufacturer. Because at the time, right after I went over from my first car, which is Hyundai, Tiburon, I actually found myself
the little coupe.
I found myself that I'm driving some other brand's car as a Korean. So I drove a lot of different cars, thanks to my daddy, of course. And I had M's and AMGs and GTIs and all these kind of different cars. But at the time when I drove some of the JDM cars, I really liked MR.
Yes.
And I had an MR2, and then when I actually had an MR2, I thought myself maybe it's going to be a good choice that I can be in a member of Hyundai to create the performance brand under Hyundai. That was actually the beginning of our end brand history.
Wow.
And then, you know, this is my dreams come true moment. For example, like when I was young, I, always watching all these kind of things, and Nürburgring 24 hours race, a good festival of speed is one of kind of thing, and that was all the time in my bucket list. And I'm, I'm challenging all those kind of things. And it's happening in reality now, under the name of Hyundai. And this is my dream job, and I'm very proud of our brand, and it has a lot of potential to grow further.
And you've developed not just in the real world, but in the virtual world. I remember back in the Hyundai 2025 Vision GT for Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
You just go wild with those concepts.
Right.
Or are you actually thinking about, I just wonder if... Is it that sort of thing? You can just let your designers and your conceptual guys just go, let's go wild.
Okay, thanks for bringing that car out, and that's also one of my baby. And by the way, Yamauchi-san is also here, the creator of Gran Turismo. We've been touching and we've been having a great relationship. But back in the days when I actually started our brand, and I thought myself that, because we launched our brand in 2015 at Frankfurt Auto Show, right? And I thought myself, within 10 years, what kind of things can be happen under Hyundai N? So that's why I actually put the name N 2025 Vision Gran Turismo to show the vision in 10 years to show that what we can do. So it was not a coincide that we actually were in the ELMS last year, which was 2025, because at the time when I started, I thought about Le Mans after WRC. So that was actually the hidden story that I can tell you in a public, in an official way. Yeah, it's my first time to tell you. This is all about the story.
That was always in the future somewhere.
Yeah, so for example, like we are not thinking about 1 year, 2 year further. We're thinking about 5 year, 10 year further. That's one of the key things that our leadership, especially our chairman, is always keep in mind, because asking us to keep in mind, because if we are not preparing for the future, we don't have any kind of better future. That's one of the biggest reasons that we are running at right now with the Hyundai Elantra and TCR, which is race proven car, and that is actually our full of joy that we can deliver this car to our customers. They can just go from right after their purchase and from the dealership to the track without modification. That is one of our clear goal.
That's a factory racing car. They look like a little shopping car with the 4 doors and the front wheel drive, but TCR is a purpose-built racing car. That's not built on a street car. That's a purpose-built racing car.
Purpose-built race car. But we didn't change that much. So, for example, we won the first race in last weekend in TCR World Tour as well. And also at the same time...
It was a good weekend because you won in Rally as well, in Rally Portugal.
Rally Portugal. I mean, Thierry was here, and then we actually had, the congratulations to each other, because Thierry had a lot of, trouble,
Thierry Neuville,
Thierry Neuville, especially in this season, and he's coming back right now, and he's full of confidence right now, just like Michael Azcona, who won the race last weekend.
That car, by the way, that leading TCR car, Nico Bastian at the wheel, its best lap is a 9:54. So a sub 8:54. 8:54, a sub 9 minute lap on with the long Grand Prix circuit, and sits leading TCR in 48th position. Now, if it finishes, it might finish a bit higher up than that. Is that what you're expecting, maybe?
Of course. So, we're not just stopping here. And our great drivers like, Marc Bessang, Manuel Lau, who are very, very, talented and experienced driver, especially in, they are spending the time around 8 to 9 years together. And we are one team. And even though we have a lot of faster cars, but we are expecting to be faster on the track, as well as the result will be there. And then Michael Azcona is there, and he's full of fun. And if you see him and while he's driving, he's full of fun, and all the green on his mouth. And this is what he said that when he's going out for the stint, he told me that I'm going to have fun. That's it. That's the philosophy of our end. We want to be reachable, approachable, and affordable in terms of, because there are a lot of different brands who are offering a lot of good cars, but we want to be, by your side, close to you, so that everybody can afford this kind of enjoyable moment by driving our end cars. This is one of our big aim, to be at Hyundai and to be at end.
I understand that in the big scheme of things, car companies have to sell a lot of different cars to a lot of different people. What I'm seeing on the socials coming in now are a lot of fans watching and listening this around the world who are very thankful that someone with your enthusiasm is doing what you're doing in the job that you're doing. Quite a lot of people around the world use a car as personal transport, and it's a thing. For the rest of us, and there's plenty of us left, there's heart and emotion in it.
Of course.
And I'm so glad that Hyundai with N are still doing the same thing.
Because at Hyundai N, driving still matters.
So still getting 3-pedal cars as well.
Of course. Yeah. Why not?
Why not? Jun, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us. I will describe you now, after that story, as the father of the N brand. I think that is appropriate. And can you please pass on our great thanks as motoring and motorsport enthusiasts to the whole team at Namyang and here and everywhere else that keeps this brilliant brand going. And by the way, the biggest comment I've had is the best colour in motorsport. That blue colour.
Thank you so much.
Where did that come from?
It's one of my favorite colours.
That's it. So you get the choice on that. When you're the man at the top, you get the choice.
We call it performance blue.
Yes.
And then this is my closing comment, that because we believe unchanged passion can change everything. Yeah. So this is what we are doing, and then we will try harder, and we will keep doing our best to actually to make the fun car.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for visiting us here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hyun Park, the father of the N brand, and great enthusiasm. I got a problem for another one of the TCR cars. It's not a Hyundai that's going badly. It is one of the Golfs.
The 800.
Oh, well, that was running quite well earlier on. And this is one of the SP3T cars, so they've elected not to run directly in the TCRs, and it looks like has it got a puncture or an axle problem?
I'm not sure, John. I think you're right on the second part of that statement, that it initially looked like a bit of a front left punch, but I think there's more damage to it than that, and it just looked like the whole wheel is oscillating in a way that it shouldn't be, not just the tyre on the rim. But we'll see, get a bit more information on that very shortly. But that's the 800 looking very, very slow around the GP circuit.
Whilst we were talking, I was keeping an eye, as you probably realised, on the action on the circuit, thanks to our colleagues at Nürburgring TV, our fabulous production company as well, making sure that we didn't miss any of the action. But I do want to update you on what's going on at the top of the shop, because Max Verstappen should be in at the end of this lap, I reckon. He's done a double, and he has pulled the lead to, he says, scrolling back to the top, 25 seconds. It's been ebbing and flowing in traffic, and depending on where the slow zones and the code 60s have hit, had a very good lap last time around, took 6 seconds out of the chasing pair. Again, all depends where you hit and what's going on. Previous lap before that, he lost about 4 or 5 seconds. So again, if you're joining us from other parts of motorsport, let me just say that 23 seconds is nothing round here. In fact, if I look down to the top 10, they're separated by 4 minutes and 11 seconds. In a quote-unquote normal motor race, even a normal endurance race, that would seem quite a lot. Around here, Bruce Jones, it's half a lap.
That it may be, but he has been consistently stretching that lead. Of course, with a lap that's 25 kilometres, it's, you know, it doesn't seem as much, but it's still 23 seconds. So each lap, he's just been augmenting that lead. Yes, it ebbs and flows through the traffic, but you know what? I think he's rather enjoyed this first double stint.
Should be coming in now to the pit lane, commits right-handed, and comes down to the 60k speed limit. Trickles in to the waiting crew at, I think is it box
9.
Box 9, thank you. Couldn't remember if it was 9 or 10. Pulls in what looks untidily, but that is absolutely the right thing to do. They put the car up on its jacks with the dollies underneath. The fuel hose goes in straight away, and then they rotate it back. There's no need to rush here. Oh, I tell you what, he's had an interesting moment because he scraped the sidewall of both left-hand side tyres there and taken all the Michelin markings off. So he's been very close to something or someone in that stint. And who did you see who got in there? I did not. It was Hunkadeo who started, so it'll be Lucas Howe?
Lucas Howe or Jules Gounod. I didn't see the height of the driver who got on board.
He was sitting down. We've got Grello in as well at the same time. And they've got a bit of marking up on the side of their Michelin tyres as well. So is that just running alongside curbs? Maybe we can ask our next guest. I'll just sit him down alongside us and give him a headset. It's been a bit slippery. Delighted to welcome Danny Hunker there. How are you?
Radio check.
Radio check. Yeah, we can hear you. You started the race in the number 3 car, and it was a bit hairy, a bit exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always a bit more hectic than you expect. You always know it's a 24-hour, but you always get relief. You get good starts, which I think was my case. So I got a really good run. I mean, slightly influenced by the car in front jumping the start, so I just drove with him pretty much, and yeah. Unfortunately, turn 2 I had a contact that I did not expect, but was very little. We got lucky that nothing happened to our car. Absolutely everything was right, and yeah, just obviously now feel a bit sorry because the Lambo that was my car last year, I really enjoyed my time with Abt, and you never want to see someone get a puncture because of a contact, but I think it's not really anything I could do. It's just unfortunate.
Top 6 have come in at the pit lane, so that's the leading Verstappen.com car won by Winward Racing, Manthey 911, the Conrad number 7 Lamborghini, the second of the Winward Run cars, the Ravenel car, Fulton Motorsports number 44 Porsche, and the Lion Speed number 24 Porsche. Ricardo Feller just bringing that car in. Good double stint there by Max. I noticed the scuffing on the side walls of the Michelin tyres on both your car and the 911 Grello.
Yeah, that's the curbs.
So the curbs that you're not running up over, you're running right alongside.
Yeah, there's some curbs in even on the GP that are have a pretty high sidewall, and you just lean against them. You don't really feel anything in the car, but it just rubs the outside shoulder, I guess.
So just taking the markings off, it's not doing any damage to the tyre.
All good, yeah.
How's it been this week, and actually even leading up to this, with having Max Verstappen in the team? The eyes of the world have been on you.
Yeah.
He is a teammate, I'm sure he's fine, but is there any extra pressure? Is there any extra difficulties for you and the team getting your job done?
There is always, but I mean, we are professional drivers. Of course, I would say the first day that I was around him in the Nordschleife, you see all the people all the fans, all the people around him, you feel a bit overwhelmed. But we have a really good relationship with Max. We spend a lot of time talking outside the racetrack. We were chatting every week, basically pretty much every day. So that makes you feel a bit more confident around him. In the end, we're just we're all professionals here. Of course, he's a one of a kind, 4 times Formula 1 world champion, but that doesn't doesn't have to bother you so much, because we are also, we're extremely professional and talented drivers here around the Notchlife, and it's going very well. I mean, we've been flawless from the first day, no issues.
You're very brave to say that. You mustn't be superstitious at all, Danny.
I mean, it's just, it seems to be going our way so far. I will never want to jinx it, of course. It's still more than 20 hours to go. The weather can play a massive role, but I'd rather be up front than catching up.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a good point about the weather, because getting into a rhythm this week, getting the information that you needed, and you've got a driver, albeit very experienced in Max, but he's not done the Nürburgring 24 before. He's not driven here in real time in the dark before, and blow me, the darkness session that we had earlier in the week was actually almost not worth having because the weather conditions were so bad. Did that put a little crimp in what was going on?
I mean,
not just for you, for everybody, actually.
No, for sure. The preparation during this week was difficult. It was tricky. But on the other hand, we have very experienced drivers in the car. I've raced here 8 times. I know my way around when things are getting tricky as well, the places where you need to take risk or where you cannot take risk. But Max is extremely natural, and he's just really good at feeling where the limits of the car are in any condition. And also, don't forget, in terms of preparation this year, I mean, I know we are the ones that are experienced, but he's done quite a lot, to be fair. Myself and Jules, especially myself, I only did one stint in NLS2, that's it. Of course, I have all the background experience, but I don't feel like this year I had a lot of preparation, to be fair. So
you went and did a couple of days at Portimao as well, didn't you?
I did not, because I wasn't there. So yeah, I didn't get a lot of prep, to be fair. But it's just it's cool to see that it's going so well. Also in terms of driver pairing, I think we are all very consistently prepared, and that's good.
Are you sharing information across the 2 cars with the 80 car as well?
We are, yes. It's the same team. In the end, it's all part of the Mercedes-AMG family. Of course, at the end of the day, there's factory drivers involved, like Jules and Luigi. Myself and Max, we are not the AMG contracted or factory drivers, but we still, we have a lot of respect for our teammates, and we're not gonna. We don't have any rules, but we are just, told to race without taking too many risks.
Shukun on in the car at the moment, just heading up the far side of the circuit, up the hill. Has there been some resurfacing since last year around here? I see some different colours of road surface, Danny.
I think there is. There has been the last couple of years. It's just always difficult to know where exactly. I think the track is just smoother in many areas.
Not necessarily more grippy.
I don't think so, no. And it's particularly slippery this year because with the up and down weather, it's been dusty, and when it gets wet, people just put more dust on track. It takes long to dry out because it's also incredibly cold. So yeah, it is a year that everything feels tricky. Flansgatten, the second jump, we saw Max nearly taking off.
Yes.
That place is also a bit more jumpy than it was in the past. We've seen cars jumping around way more, so we need to be careful there.
So do you now, you saw that, we saw that on the screen, you will have looked at the data. He was racing in close company with a car behind him. Do you modify the way you take that part of the circuit now?
Yeah, you do a little bit. Usually that corner or jump, however you want to call it, is you pass flat out, 5th gear, no lift at all, just the car just lifts a little bit, and now we are having a little bit of a lift, just to be careful, just to be patient. There's not much you lose in terms of lap time if you do that, and it just makes you stay safer around that area.
Where are the challenges going to be? Is it the weather again and the cold temperatures overnight tonight? And who's got the best weather radar? What's your weather radar telling us? Are we going to get a proper splash of rain? There was a few showers earlier on, and one or two people did go on to either cut slicks or wet weather tyres. They didn't stay on them very long. What can you tell us?
I think it's the next couple of hours that look tricky. at least in terms of weather prediction. But man, the notch life is just so unpredictable.
But that's why you love it, isn't it? You've got a little smile on your face when you say that.
Yeah, I know, but at some point also when you are in the lead, you want everything to just be a bit smoother. There be no uncertainties. You know, if the weather is playing a big role, at some point someone might gamble and you get lucky, and that's, you know, always tricky. Oof, some close calls there.
And that is the last year's winner, the Lamborghini, with one of the Lamborghinis.
Well, it's the 130 car that, of course, was a little fast away at the start of the race. But yeah, the important thing is it's also just the rain that is falling at that part of the circuit. You asked about
fast.
Well, I've been hearing 7 till 9, so about 20 minutes from now we'll have rain, and then dry through the night. But I think that's going to be a moving stage for all of us.
Now, I've been taking some stick in the last couple of years about how I pronounce your name as Hunkadea.
Hunkadea. Yeah, very good.
You told me that at the end of pit lane a couple of years ago. So am I all right with that?
You're good. You're good. You're really good.
That's all right. When are you next in the car?
So I'll be next in the car, I think around 11 p.m. Jules is going for a double stint now. Then
so he'll take it. Oh, not quite into the darkness.
Night. Not so will be Lucas. Will be Lucas. You know, ideally, what you want to do in this scenario when it's going to start getting dark, you want to have one driver that goes into the night.
Yeah.
Also, something that worked out really well for us is Max did a double stint and he drove into the kind of wet or kind of rain that came. And that always helps as well, because if you have changing conditions and you just put a new driver in the car, it's always tricky.
Yeah. Jill's just waiting for a green flag. There it is. At the Kleiner Carousel, gets past the Dacia Logan, and I was just looking up there and saw the yellow Lamborghini behind this 7 whatever it is that is further back down the field. I thought that was the second place car, but no, they're away back down the road in the Grello. You're taking on the might of Ford. The Fords look much better in the Evo form this weekend. Manthey have got a big anniversary this year. You can never count out the Porsche and the BMWs as well have been good. And this year the Lamborghinis, my goodness me, they're fast in a straight line.
They are really quick on the straight. Yeah, I mean, I raced that car last year, and I know it's a good car on the straight. So yeah, but that's part of the game. You know, I think rest of the cars were pretty close within each other on the straight. We've used to be in the Mercedes AMG particularly slow on the straight, but this year I think we are better than in the past, and that gives us a lot of raceability. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for sure the Lambo, in case it's going to a last hour fight, it's not the car you want to be racing, because you know they're going to be...
It's the last lap down towards Tiergarten.
Not going to be good.
Yeah, I know you've got to get away. Thank you very much for coming to see us.
It was a pleasure.
Pass on the best to all the guys running the car and your teammates. There's a lot of good friends of mine down there, and people I see all the way around the world. And I can say this to everybody, because I'm not allowed to have some favourites, but I can say good luck, because you need good luck here. Drive well and be safe.
Thank you.
Danny Hunkadea with us here in the Global Broadcast Centre, living his best life at the start of the race, and he's wrapped up warm with a lovely big puffer jacket on.
And now he's just closing the door of the studio. I can point out that his car lost 14 seconds of its lead on that lap. We saw the little Dacia sitting in front of the nose of Jules Gounod, double waved yellows for quite some period towards the end of the lap. So the pendulum has definitely swung towards Kevin Estre. We know in terms of race pace they're very, very similar, but for Jules Gounod, he'll have to just sit on top of that frustration. And in fact, no, just park that frustration. He's now going around the Grand Prix circuit before he heads out onto the Nordschleife. But there is nothing you can do. Well, there are two things you can do. You can either behave and sit behind as instructed by race officials and the rules of the game, or you can do something silly, and you always end up losing out if you transgress. We've seen penalties issued throughout the race so far, and for some people it'll become cumulative, but that is just a frustration. You just have to sit there. You have to sit there, look for the green flag. He got it as they went to Galgenkopf, but 14 seconds out of the window. That's a big hit.
It's exactly what Adam Christodoulou was saying about when you go from doubles to singles, and then you get a car that doesn't pick up pace as it should do, and my goodness me. Hi to Martin Short, who's tuned in at RSL_studio, hashtag RSLN24. Very important part of the race, this, but at the moment, very difficult for drivers, teams to get into any kind of rhythm with a number of yellow flags and 12 slow zones around the circuits. Winward still racing, the Verstappen.com car still racing as it's coming up to 6:45 in the evening here, Central European summertime. And Peter Cates has joined us for the first time this weekend. Back again for your 157th Nürburgring 24-hour race, is that right?
I'm not that old, John. But yeah, okay, 24th, how about that?
24.
Yeah, exactly, 24 squared. I would say the build-up to this one has been more difficult than any of them.
Because?
The weather, it's just nuts. Every single session was interrupted, either wet to dry to wet, so every time you're working towards a setup, trying to get some comfort across the driver squad, something would change in the weather, and you just were always chasing it. So actually this morning, even in the warm-up, we were still chasing a setup.
So is it quite obvious to you, who've got experience round here, that there are other teams whose cars are not dialed in when you're following people, when people are going past you, when you're going past people?
Honestly, I think we're all not quite dialed in because we don't really know, whether we've got, let's say, a dry setup that works okay in the wet or a wet setup that works okay in the dry. I was following a few people following me, and it's very clear that some of them are quicker in certain areas of the track, and we're quicker in other areas of the track. So obviously the setups are markedly different, which is great for the fans because you're going to get some real swapping of position.
You're back with Chenny again, we should say.
Yeah, fantastic.
Lovely group of people. You've enjoyed working with them through the years?
Yeah, exactly. When I think about all the time I had at Aston, as you know, a real nice family atmosphere, but super professional. That's exactly what Chenny are. They make you feel super welcome as a driver. But they do such a good job, such a professional job.
161 cars, didn't quite start all of those. A huge number, 49, I think, SP9 and top class SPX type cars. That's a lot of cars, as Klaus Bachler just threaded in the eye of the needle between Porsche Cup car and the KTM SPX car going on to the Nürburgring there, at the top of the Grand Prix circuit. Is it noticeably different out there with that many cars and that many SP9 cars out there?
Well, you've got a long memory, like I have, John, and you remember the days of 230 starters.
Yeah.
However, the difference is exactly what you just said. We didn't have all these GT3 cars. We had a real variety of stuff, from Vipers and other things at the front, down to all sorts of much slower machinery. So the speed differential was enormous in those days. I think everything's got a bit quicker, but the GT3s now, at least, I think since last year, there has been a move towards more respect to the slower classes. It's great to see.
It was required, wasn't it, Peter?
Was.
You were on the wrong end of.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Well, but it was a talking point last year, and that wasn't. It's not like I'm picking that out because that was you and that was the only incident. That was one of a number of incidents
involving GT3s and slow cars.
Yeah, which were very untidy indeed. I'm being diplomatic when I say that.
Yeah, exactly. And in the training that we have to do every year to get our permits renewed, there is a new section around respect. And that means that you can actually see in the way that the driving is going on, the GT3s are treating the smaller or slower classes with a bit more respect and understanding that there's a big speed differential.
We've got Peter Cates in the booth with us. Join the conversation, RSL_studio, hashtag RSLN24. It is Shugunon that leads, but that lead is down to 6.7 seconds. Slow laps, slow zones. Out of the pits last time around at 12.19.7, 12.05 by Kevin Estra, who is fairly kicking along in the Manthey Racing 911. Bruce Jones alongside me, John Hino and Peter Cate joining us for a little while as well. One thing I noticed at the start of the race, Peter, before we go back to what's going on the track, I have never seen so many people getting pulled for speeding.
Look.
Oh, that is the 911.
I saw it
That's
start to go
in the wrong way.
I saw it start to go as they cut away to those burgers.
I'm still thinking about the burgers, but anyhow, they go. But yeah, so he got the gap down to 9 seconds.
Two cars involved there. Two cars involved because there's a TCR as well, and that
Okay, I mean, he was only a couple of seconds ahead of Dennis Olsen in the third place Ford Mustang as well, but he's gone through, and perhaps he might just get going before Christian Cronjes comes in the Walk and Horse Motorsport Aston Martin. That's car number 34. But
slow. That is very, very early on the circuit as well. There's big damage to the back. This is drama for Manthey. You never count them out. We've seen them in the past come back from all kinds of weird and wonderful things. Now, that's someone slowing down right in front of Kevin. He gets by. That's all right. He's had to go offline and loses the back end. That's just half a car's width offline at Brunchen.
Yeah.
Coming through to the second part of Brunchen there. And that's, we had Danny Hunkadea in just a moment or two ago. The uphill part of Brunchen turns in and the back end just goes. It is so greasy out there, Peter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've had a little bit of rain off and on, but the track itself, the level of grip is so low. It's partly to do with temperatures compared to what you would normally expect at this time of year. Temperatures are very low, track temperatures are very low. But also the historic touring car legends stuff that was running. Put a lot of grease on the track as well.
You're watching and listening to live coverage from the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and the big story, that's a very damaged car. He's not going to get that back on its own. It'll come back on a flatbed, but they're going to lose a lot of time. Big story, we've just had Danny Hunkadea in here this weekend. Is Danny's teammate, Max Verstappen, and we've had the opportunity to speak to him a moment or two ago. 20 hours, 9 minutes and 21 seconds to go. And there's another crash. And this is exactly the same. There must be something on the track there. Same place, exactly the same commitment point. The witness marks. This is Arjun Mani, who'd been flying in the number 64 Ford Mustang. And that's exactly the same thing. The back end's got away, turning into the uphill part of Brunchen. Actually, that's the downhill part of Brunchen. That's the first part, I think. Here comes the intervention vehicle.
So it's the exit.
It is the exit, you're right, yeah. So it is exactly the same spot.
Suggesting, probably going up the inside.
Suggesting to me that there is something on the circuit there. And that's two major contenders, Bruce Jones.
Two from the top 10.
Yeah.
I know we expected a bit of rain coming in, but again, it's... Peter, you'll have had this over the years. Rain in parts of the circuit, not in others. You're just gauging a feel for it, and this is where experience comes into it. But hold on, Kevin Estre, he's more than experienced around here. And yesterday when we saw Mauro Engel going off as well, who literally never puts a wheel wrong, you think, this track, you pointed out, with the lower track temperatures, is just very, very much worse than when it's warmer. Often this race is several weeks later, more in the summer. It's felt like winter for a lot of you here this weekend. But for a lot of crews that were going really well with top drivers in, things are happening out on the track.
Completely agree. Yeah, I think tyre window is one thing. I think they're having to go offline to pass the slow traffic. That's what's putting them at odds with what they would expect going into those corners. Normally those corners are, straightforward, Brunchen. It's not a difficult corner. It's uphill. You've got a lot of traction. But yeah, offline it's clearly not working.
Well, you just whispered when you saw the damaged back end of the 911 Porsche that's out, and I've just seen some of the team members in the garages, long faces, literally that resigned shaking of the hands. It's definitely over and out. And this is a car that, alas, I tipped for victory, but that's irrelevant. But it's the fact that this is a car that was going very, very well, and certainly in the straight line, not relative to the Lamborghinis, but that Porsche was having plenty of punch along the Döttinger, which is a very handy place to have a little bit of speed excess to your rivals.
I know that the Porsche was leaking coolant after its incident, but that Ford's gone off in exactly the same place as the Porsche. That's not Porsche fluid that's caused that, but both of those incidents.
I think you can see Kevin's tyre tracks across the grass behind the Mustang. So clearly not related.
No, I agree. And Kevin had to pinch the inside of the corner there, so he wasn't fully committed at that point. He'd gone down the inside. I thought he was just a little bit offline, and he maybe caught some dirt, but it was just the way the back end, it was a lazy spin in one respect. It just got away from him, and it wasn't a snap.
Yeah, it was a slow loss of control, and the TC didn't catch it.
No. And when a driver of the skill of Kevin Estre, who knows that car so well, that suggests to me there's something not quite right with the track surface. Either it's wetter than we think it is and the drivers think there is, or that there is some contaminant there on the circuit. I'm not trying to excuse a potential mistake from either of those drivers. Arjun Maini was pushing very, very hard indeed, but to go off at the same place, my late father, God rest his soul, wasn't one to believe in coincidences.
It's the green hell, right?
Yeah. Now, Jules Gounon leading the race. Windscreen wiper on, intermittent. It is spitting.
It's trying to get tyre temperature, you can see it.
Waving left and right. And he's lifting nice and early. No big stands on the brakes. Through the double left of Verstappen up to the top of Callan-Hart before he drops down. Now, a moment or two ago, did he even have a bit of a moment at the front of the field? He leads down to 2.6 seconds coming to the end of the lap at Tiergarten. And in fact, he's lost the lead, has he? Yes, he has. Olsen's gone through. As Gounon was taking it easy in very tricky condition. And that's another pass around the outside at the Tiergarten where Max took the lead. They've just lost it in exactly the same place. These conditions on slick tyres at the moment, Peter, looking nigh on impossible to judge how much grip they are, particularly in terms of the front tyre grip.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the GT3s can use cut slicks, of course, if they need to. I don't know what those cars are on, but clearly one of those compounds is working a lot better than the other. It is a time for caution at this time of the race. You know, we've only been going a relatively short distance into this race, so people aren't necessarily going to push it to the extreme when there's traffic ahead. He was probably waiting for the Grand Prix to pass.
Steve Fall asking those two cars that we've just seen damaged, are they out the race or can they be repaired? If you get them back, they can be repaired, but these guys are racing for the victory and nothing else here. So I suspect that once that Grello car comes back, that they'll have a look at it and they may send it out for a lap if they repair it. Kevin Estre stayed in the car, although he unbuckled his belts. He's redoing them now, but the Arjun Maini car, I think, is too badly damaged to continue. The rules here about recovery and repair aren't the same as somewhere like Le Mans, Bruce, where once you get out the car or once you've had it outside assistance, you're out. That's not the case here.
Yeah, no, 100%. The point I wanted to just make is that because of the level of competition at the top of the field, if you're going to lose 2 laps, you're not going to get it back.
Yeah.
And these cars are losing way more than that. And I mean, with the Alexander Sims Shearer Sport PHX Audi, you know, Adam Christodoulou was sitting next door to our studio and he just went, that's out, they're here in it to win it. It sounds a bizarre thing, and Peter, if you're racing in something like the SP10 class as you are with the Cherney Motorsport thing, there isn't the depth there, so you can still get a good class result if you have a delay. But when you've got 44 SP9 class cars,
you can. Yeah, I think we still have the same mentality, though. To be fair, the reason is the SP10, effectively GT4 class, is so close at the front. I mean, okay, the qualifying didn't show that because of the mixed conditions, but in the quali races a few weeks ago, the top 5 were 1 second apart.
Wow!
So it really is, you know, a very well contested category, and we do want to make sure we get up front. Sure.
Of course, and I know that was almost an unfair question, but I was just, you know, when you got...
That's the way you were going.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for being a diplomat and fully understanding.
Ford leads at the Nürburgring 24 and the 54th ADAC Ravenel 24 Hours has the blue oval on top, just going past his stricken teammate Dennis Olsen now with the Bundeswehr, the German army sponsored and camouflage coloured car, the stricken and badly damaged Dennis Olsen car at Brunchen. And again, that's another code 60 area. We are strewn with them at the moment, and still the rain refuses to make its mind up. Is it coming? Is it going? So earlier on, Max Verstappen took the lead of the race in a double stint. It was traffic affected, and it was a tremendous run from the rookie, remember here. Let's hear what he had to say.
That's a masterclass of Max Verstappen overtaking, making your way to the lead the race, and then pitting with 25 seconds ahead of the others. How did it go for you? Take us through that stint.
Yeah, it was good. Initially, of course, I was a bit stuck in traffic, so it was a bit difficult to clear the cars. But once I cleared a few of them, and then the weather kicked in with a few laps of like slippery conditions, that's I think where we made a difference. And then the car was good. I mean, trying to stay out of trouble, but at the same time you have to push and you have to try and be on the limit, which is always, I think, a difficult compromise to find, but it worked out fine.
There was a bit of a moment in the beginning of the race when you kind of had to touch the barrier. How did you get back into the race and find that pace again?
Yeah, we had a little moment. I think I turned in a bit too early, and then we had a little moment there. But that was fine. You just have to keep yourself together, stay calm, and just focus again.
That was a double stint. You're of course getting the time out there on track, getting ready for the night stint.
Yeah, slowly getting ready, but not only the night, also seeing what the weather will do in terms of how much rain is coming down. It's going to be now, I think, the coming hours very challenging.
Thanks very much.
So Max Verstappen after his double stint, and we've got another code 60 at Brunchen for again a straight-on accident for for Arjun Maini in the Ford.
Except it was different. We talked about the lazy spin of Kevin Estre, but Arjun Maini's car snapped to the left and then to the right. It was a real switch where it was a simple, almost like a glissade for Kevin Estre as he went wide. Kevin Estre's car, clearly the wheels are relatively square. They're making way back.
So we've gone through another racing hour, and well, what a first tranche with 4 hours now already in the book. Fairly feisty start to the race, a jump start indeed for the outside front row sitter, the green and blue Lamborghini, and that's put the number 130 off kilter with everybody else. He didn't jump before the green, but the new start line, I think, caught him out, because by he got to the new start line, which is way further down the track, he actually was ahead of the pole sitter, and that's what he got the penalty for. The opening lap was absolutely incredible. The other apt, the pole sitting apt Red Bull car with a left rear puncture and just making it into the pits. We had the second of the Rover BMW spinning on the Grand Prix circuit. We think the gap might have been a bit further back than normal to the third group, because they were caught really quickly by the leaders, and Danny Huncadea working his way through. Kevin Estre came from 8th up to 3rd, then dropped back to 5th and then got back to 3rd again. The Conrad Lamborghini, a bit of a star early on as well, the number 7 car, with extremely good speed, particularly on the Dottinger Herd towards the end of the lap. Max Verstappen having a huge moment over one of the jumps on the far side of the track when both the front wheels stayed up in the air way too long, and that was literally inches away from disaster. And we've got systems in place now to stop those cars flipping over, and they were required there because they needed to bleed air from underneath the front wheels, and the Louvres did that. And oh my goodness me, what a run for the 4-time world champion. Car got into the lead and he stayed in it for a second stint, and as we've just heard him saying, the double stint wasn't too difficult for him because of the traffic in the yellows. Then the big moment for the number 75 Audi, the AT1 leader, a puncture, right rear puncture, coming into one of the fastest corners on the circuit at the top of the hill. And then the the Ferrari went the same way, and the Singleton prancing horse just getting onto the dirt, passing one of the Cup 4 cars, the 969, through the hats and back. And we've seen a number of people struggling there. As soon as you put any wheels off, it has been very, very wet here this week, and the grass is sodden. Then Alexander Sims was in contact and tried to, in fact, did get his Audi home, the number 16, ran into the back of another car, flipped the clamshell up, but that car extensively damaged. Amazing that he could get it anywhere near back to the pits. The good news is the clamshell bonnet flips up so far and has such a big cutout in it that he didn't even have to try and duck down to see through it. And it didn't break the windscreen either. And that car, as I say, did get back out. It was going through traffic and hit the back of another SP9 car. The BMW M3 Touring 24H has been a big fan hit, and that is leading the SPX category solidly in the top positions. And all of the attention, of course, as you might imagine, when Max Verstappen got into the car, and he's brought that car back in at the end of a double stint in the lead. It still leads in the hands, it was still leading in the hands of Jules Gounon until a few moments ago, when traffic played a part. 2 big losses at Brunchen. A lazy, slow spin that was rear contact for the Grello 911 and Kevin Estre. It looked for a moment like he thought he'd saved it, and then it just went around and he couldn't really understand what had happened. The team, I think, know that their fate means they'll have to come back another year if they're going to win. And then Arjun Maini, back end getting away from him, and he nearly caught it, but then went in nose first. Peter Kate in the studio. Before we let you go, Peter, how is, as we move into another racing hour, when you're next back in the car?
Right now Tom Schultz is in the car. He was hoping to get a dry stint, being the least experienced of the driver squad, and having all of this mixed weather through the quali sessions. So unfortunately it started to rain again halfway through, as it seems to be the case all the way so far in this event. After that it'll be Jeroen Blekemolen, my old teammate from 2024 that you know well, and then Josh will be back in the car, he who started the race. So he did a great job to get us back, having suffered a 30-second penalty for a 1.5 km/h speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah. I've never seen so many people get pinged for that part of the week.
Yeah, well, we got it back, and then it was just a question of dealing with the conditions and, you know, getting through the oil spillages and the rain.
This early part of the race, are you thinking about your position, or are you surviving the night and then you reassess tomorrow morning?
Well, I think Josh's approach was he was livid about the penalty, so he's driving to win it from the flag, you know, the green light. But in my case, yeah, I do have that mentality that you've got to survive the difficult parts. You've seen what happens to even the pros here going off, as you saw with Arjun, as you saw with Kevin. Anything can happen. So what you've got to do is make sure you're there at the end, and then take stock.
Racing Hell still available?
Yep, absolutely. It's definitely available, and it's definitely something I'm working on in terms of an addition to. I think races like this just add fuel to the fire for a second edition, because there's so many stories I can tell.
You won't write a completely new book, you'll just be adding chapters, Peter, right?
Yeah, I'm as I go now, I'm making notes, adding more and more, and it's just great to get the feedback, especially when I come here and I meet people who've read it. I met people on the grid, I met people in the Autograph session, people in the paddock who've read it, and you know, maybe because I'm wearing the Racing Hell cap, you know, they come over and present you with a copy to sign and devalue. So it's just nice to see that, and nice that people get something out of it, because I don't think there is a book like it about motorsport.
No, I think you're right. Come back and join us later in the race, won't you, Peter?
Thank you. And I couldn't go without saying I brought you a box of Tregothnan English green tea. That's what that was that Eve just stole away.
Never underestimate the restorative powers of a cup of tea in the middle of the night. Coffee's great, and we love our sacred coffee as well, but particularly here, a cup of tea in the middle of the night.
That should get you all the way. Nice to see you, John.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Cake joining us in the Global Broadcast Centre. I cannot imagine how frustrating it is, Bruce Jones, for the drivers out there at the moment who aren't getting a lap in. Lap times of over 11 minutes at the front of the field. It was over 12 minutes earlier on, and it almost seems it reminds me a little bit about some of the roads around here, where they've got 100k, then it's 70k, then it's 50k, then it's back to 100k because there's sort of some temporary speed limits because there's so many people around here. I understand why it is, but you've got to really have your wits about you about what speed you're doing.
You do. It's like driving in London these days. 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, you never really know. There's no pattern. But yeah, very frustrating for drivers. Of course, the light is getting a little bit weaker now. But it was so interesting having Peter Kate in here 24 times here at the 24 Hours. The experience is game. But we've got Aidan Mulready who's just joining us here.
Oh, the end of the experience spectrum.
Exactly so. Last year racing sort of fiestas in Ireland and then dipping your toe in this pond. And how are you finding it this time around, second time?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the atmosphere at this race alone is just something completely special. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. But yeah, like you said, it was racing in Ireland last year. It was a big step up to doing the NLS this year, and I'm just so excited to be here and be able to be a part of such a historic motor race.
What prompted you to make this sort of massive jump to the Eiffel Forest? Did you watch these races in previous years and think, oh, that looks suitably out there?
I think every motorsport enthusiast looks at the Nürburgring and goes, I have to drive that one day. And starting racing so late, I only got my racing license when I was 24 years old. I realized that if I want to go anywhere, a lot of learning has to occur real quickly. And Fiestas in Ireland was a fantastic platform to start on. And I figured what better place to, have learning occur than the Green Hell. So that's what brought me here.
No, exactly. If you squint when you're standing at Mondello Park, it's almost this. No, of course it couldn't be more of an extreme difference. But you're competing in the M240i class. What's it like with the traffic? Because we saw that the various groups seem to be, the SP9s are coming through. There's about 44 of them coming through. I mean, it must be like just the most enormous bow wave coming past, and you're having your own battles at the same time.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest transitions coming in was, there's so many races going on within a race. And especially when you're in the early stints and you have the SP9s coming up on you kind of in packs, it's definitely a big transition. But, at the end of the day, you're racing your race, they're racing theirs, and you kind of just get into a groove. I think for the most part, it works out pretty well.
Except, of course, wet, dry, sun, hail. We've pretty much had the lot here. How's it going to shake out for you? What are you doing relative to looking at your driver rotor and where the rain's coming? From what we gather, 7 till 9, the windscreen wipers are going on the cars now, is where the rain is going to come. But I looked at the weather map and it was basically offering rain potential for every hour of the 24. What's your weather forecast saying at Break or Racing?
It's tough to say at the moment. I think if we learned anything from the practice sessions and the qualifying sessions, it's that you can look at a different weather app and each one's going to tell you something.
No, I know that indeed, yes.
It's the only time that I've looked at a weather app and said, it's completely sunny outside and I'm standing in rain. So I think it's tough to predict, but that being said, we have a great team of engineers over at Brakel, and I know that they're keeping an eye on it to make sure that we're going out with the best stuff.
74th at the minute, I reckon. You're the 967, aren't you?
667.
667, sorry. Okay, let me scroll down. Where are you at the minute, Briggs?
7th in class. I just spotted
excellent. Well done. Well done.
667, 116th overall, 7th in class. But again, with these slow zones, that's a little bit disruptive, isn't it? Quick, slow, quick, slow.
It is. I was in the car for the second stint, and for about the first 3 laps, it was pretty much clear running. The GT3s were coming out in their packs. They'd go by, and then it was basically clear track. But the second half of that stint, it was constant yellows, code 60s. So you're exactly right. You get up to speed, you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden you come up over a crest and you see a code 60s land on the other side. So it's definitely something you got to keep an eye out for, and a little bit of a disruptor in that rhythm as we were talking about.
And how, you haven't been out there when there have been long periods of delay, but there may well be. A couple of years ago, fog absolutely kiboshed the whole race, but just keeping in the pattern. I guess, as you say, you're short in racing experience, but you're not a teenager. You should have, really intense focus. But I guess until you get into that situation when you've got a long period behind a safety car or whatever, here with code 60s, your mind management is such an important thing, particularly if it's, say, 4 in the morning and naturally your body's saying you should be asleep.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the NLS races, the first NLS race I did, that was a 4-hour race, which felt like an eternity coming from 15-minute sprints in Kyrgyzstan at Mondello Park. Yeah. And now we're racing the 24, obviously. So, like you said, I think body management, mind management, making sure that the rest periods are taken care of properly, all that's going to play a huge role for us, making sure that we're fresh.
I take it in, you only do single stints. in your car?
Yeah, for the most part, we're only doing single stints, correct.
Which is how long?
Single stint is about 7 laps for us in the BMW, so just over an hour.
Just over an hour, right. Are we allowed to talk about what you do in real life, by the way? Or is this real life and what
Absolutely.
you do? Or you just do the other thing just to get you here?
I have a bit of a dual life going on at the moment.
Because this is quite interesting.
It is.
Go on, tell everybody what you do.
It is. So I live in New York City, and I work as an airline captain in New York. So I'm a full-time airline pilot. And then I use my time off to come over here and go racing. So pretty much every day that I'm in the US, I'm working, and every day that I'm off, I'm over here supporting my racing. So,
any similarities between the two halves of your life?
You know, I think you'd be surprised with how many similarities there actually are. You know, everybody talks about racing drivers that have become pilots, and, you know, Niki Lauda is a perfect example of that, but nobody talks about going the other way. You know, I think in aviation, we're in a very controlled environment, but at the end of the day, when the weather's poor and it's gusting to 30 knots, it's a feel thing. You got to put the airplane onto the ground safely. And, you know, I think racing is the same thing. It's about making smart decisions. It's about being calculated. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's a factor of being precise.
I hadn't thought about that when you said it's a feel thing, but your control surfaces on the plane are slightly different from how you control a car, but your touch points are very similar. It's what you're feeling through your backside, what you're doing with your feet and your hands. So that must help.
100%, and I think one of the things, you know, and I used to work as a flight instructor, one of the things that was toughest to teach was feel. You know, we can talk about numbers all day, I can sit you in front of a book, but how do you actually teach that seat of the pants feeling? And you're right, it's a completely tactile thing, and a lot of the, you know, similarities between the airplane and the car, just what's the aircraft doing underneath you, what's the car doing underneath you, what are the weather conditions telling you about what's going to happen ahead of you? You know, and I think a lot of people would be surprised about how much I've actually taken from the flying and been able to, you know, make it actually stick in racing.
And where's been the biggest challenge then coming to the Nürburgring Nordschleife for the NLS race, and particularly this week? Peter Kate's just been in 24 times here and raced in other things as well. I've raced with him in a 24-hour race in the States, and he was talking about the weather. Is that affected you guys as well in your preparation?
You know, I think it has. Like we were talking about earlier, the weather is so unpredictable here, and I think the good news is that everybody's dealing with it. But at the same time, it is something to be dealt with.
I've just thought of something. Hang on, you're a pilot. You must have the best weather app going. So are you in real demand down in the pit lane?
This is a little secret that we've been keeping over there, but we have a couple of behind the scenes.
It's safe with us, don't you worry.
Shh. And are we going to get rain?
I think rain might be in the forecast, but at the end of the day, we'll see what the Eiffel skies have to say.
When you back in?
Say again?
When you back in the car?
I'll be back in the car in about 2 hours' time, so it should be about 10 o'clock or so.
So it'll be full dark by then?
Should be about full dark.
Laps around here in the dark?
Phenomenal. I had my first laps around here in the dark in the qualifying session, and I can genuinely say it was the most fun I've ever had in a race car.
What level of light do you see around the track? Because obviously you've got the campsites and the tents and people firing up flares, but they just flash by.
And to be honest, that was what I didn't expect. So the first time that I was coming up to the back end of the track, I was looking going, what are all these lights on the end of the track? And it made me realize, oh my God, it's spectators. They have flares, they have fireworks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just completely different to anything that I've ever driven before. But, you know, in the 6 hour races that I did at Mondello, I absolutely loved the night. I had a great time of the night during the qualifying session, so I see no reason why this should be any different. I'm really looking forward to getting in the car again.
There's various places on this track where there's a tunnel effect, and actually you can't see anything but the track. Is actually that a help or a hindrance?
You know, I think you can make it a help. At the end of the day, I'm familiar with this track. I think we're all familiar with this track, and I think you settle into your rhythm, you settle into your groove, and you know, I don't want to say that you have tunnel vision looking ahead, but you're focused on your task, you're focused on the next corner ahead, and you just kind of start to blank out everything that's going on beside you.
All right, so a small step in motor racing terms, he says, ironically, from one of the quarter-litre Fiestas into the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That's last year to this year. Are you going to do a couple of years here, or are you going to just... Are you going to have a word with Max and see if there's a job for you? You know, he seems to go through teammates pretty quickly. to be honest. I mean, no, seriously though, that was quite a big step. Where are you looking in your motor racing side of this split, this double life that you lead?
Well, if Max is listening, I'll never say no to an opportunity. But that being said, I think we're exploring a bunch of different options. But after being here, after seeing the opportunities that are here at the Nürburgring, even just in changing classes, I think this is definitely somewhere where, you know, that learning that we talked about can really occur. So I'm not sure if next year will be, you know, potentially moving up to a GT4 here. I'm not sure if it's going to be moving somewhere else. But I think whatever I move on to, this experience that I'm having right now in the M240 at the Nürburgring is going to set me up pretty well for it.
But even that, actually, that has a parallel with flying, because you get rated for different aircraft, don't you? So it's kind of similar. You're moving up in performance.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, you know, you have to have your first flight in that bigger aircraft, and that's what it was coming to the Nürburgring, right? This is a new track, this is a new car, it's, you know, a new team environment as well, but you have to sit in the airplane for the first time eventually, and just get after it. So that's what we did.
Aidan, thanks for being with us. Say hi to the guys in the team. Thank you for keeping us warm this weekend. I've got a couple of fleeces because I was freezing the other day. The battle for second position is hotting up, Bruce.
Absolutely is. Just as Jules Gounod had initially been fighting with the Mustang, now he's got the Walkenhorst number 34 Aston Martin, Christian Cronjes, right under his tail. Just a final thought as Aidan Mulready leaves our studio. Of course, he should be absolutely fine because you don't in the night, because you don't only fly in daytime, so that should be fine from him. And he's following in the wheel tracks of, if you know racing from the 1960s, Hugh Dibley, who was an airline pilot for BOAC, raced at Le Mans and Sebring. A long time in between, but hey, it's good to have that connection. Thanks very much, Aidan.
I think that's just a tremendous story, and proves, again, you know, it's the stories up and down the field, Bruce, isn't it? We came across Aidan and he started Declan from a good friend of ours that actually works at Ferrari. Hello, Luca, I know you'll be listening. And we got introduced, and I kind of thought that in some ways that's the essence of probably 100 teams here. The drivers like Aidan who come here, drivers like Peter Kate who come here year after year, and let's be quite frank about this, they are bringing money to a team. Those teams are running as a business, and they need investment, financial investment from people to be able to do that. And that's why there's 161 cars on the start list.
Yeah, and I just think it's this intriguing modern day racing. You have to have that ability to analyse data and have a feel as well. It can't just be cold hard fact, it has to be feel too. And I think racing drivers and pilots have so much in common accordingly.
I think it's interesting, a lot of people mentioning as the now here's the fluid or oil going down towards Brunschid. What a great find from our replay team, and that was why Kevin Estra,
because he wasn't far offline. He wasn't. The tail was just swinging around. That is not even. I would even suggest driver error.
Then Arjun comes around and literally followed in the footstep. It's such a lazy spin on that uphill. The uphill should have helped him. The camber of the road should have helped him. That car, in terms of physics, that car should not have spun, and yet it did, which immediately made me think contamination. And then literally, and actually was being followed by Dennis Olsen at the time. It looks even more bizarre from Dennis's, because it is such a slow, lazy spin. It's not the snap, it's not the immediate loss of grip and the car snapping round. And then Arjun Maini went straight in as well. Sorry, I interrupted myself there. What was I going to talk about? Oh yes, quite a lot of people saying, oh, I wouldn't mind being on Aidan's flight. He is Captain Cool with that voice, isn't he? Hello, everybody.
Well, he intrigues people of both sides of the Atlantic, being half American and half Irish, and very, very gentle accent. But I still can't get my head around racing in the Irish Fiesta Championship at Kirkuson Mondello Park, and then coming to do this. Full marks to him, and clearly he's very good at processing information, because otherwise he'd be in the barrier. And don't forget, coming here, of course, we had absolutely foul weather, low track temperatures, was even having the best people spin, and rain in its various forms, and hail as well. He's had to contend with a lot.
And I think also you have to compliment the ADAC and the Nürburgring Langstrecke Series run by VLN, because he has come through their training program. He's had to do his laps in the NLS. He's done the simulator work, which when I was talking to him the other day, he said, well, you know, I'm used to simulator work, have to do it, have to requalify. It's an essential part of what he does. He often in his day job will have someone meet him at the gate and say, by the way, I'm flying with you today. This is a check flight. So he's used to all of that sort of thing, and as you say, he takes in the information clearly very well indeed. But I do think it's testament to why that type of permit system works here and has to work here. Battle for second, and Jules Gounon then in the Verstappen AMG, the Windward Run car, and here comes the Valkenhorst Aston Martin. It's been a good run from the British manufacturer, and he's dragging up behind down the long Dottinger Hurt. He'll go the long way around, but we've seen this work. There's a little bit of a sheen on the road though, Bruce, and we know how difficult that will be at the end of the lap, but the pass has been made. Now, can he get the front end of the Aston Martin turned in? It was his teammate who gave away the lead, or at least was passed by Verstappen there in the previous stint. Straight into the pit lane for Jesse Kronius at the end of his stint. Now, I haven't seen anybody stretch to 9 laps yet, even with all of the slow zones, etc. And that was an 8-lap run, so that's spot on. Dennis Olsen in the lead has 1 more lap. Jules Gounon has 2 more laps.
It's just really intriguing. The Aston Martin in the hands of Christian Kronius is a driver who just absolutely adores the longer, long-distance races. You know, he could do the 6 hours, but he comes out, he's got a day job, you know, he's not a full-time professional driver. But that Aston Martin under his hands look really, really well-balanced. There's a beautiful livery there, black and gold, natural elements across the nose, but sharing with Matteo Drudi, never knowingly slow, Felipe Fernandez-Laza and Nicky Thiem. Fernandez-Laza is already the first retirement of the race, but talk about having an insurance policy. He pulled off in the number 35 Walkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin, but he's sharing this one as well. So he's sort of had a banker, and his banker's going very nicely indeed.
I'm going to give you a quote from Roland Ash, who is very experienced around here. He's driving in the number 62 HWR Evo R as the Aston's getting its service in the pit lane. He said, "This is insane, what I'm seeing here."
Roland Ash is saying it's insane.
Roland Ash is saying
it, done it.
Exactly my point. I knew you'd take that. This is insane what's going on here this year. I've driven in so many 24-hour races, but this kind of turnout in a field of 40 GT3 cars, unbelievable. And they're going full throttle right from the start. We used to take it a bit easier when I was in GT3. So I just jumped on my bike and went to the campsite. I could barely get through the fans. I'm delighted that my son is competing with the HWA Evo R. It's incredible. I helped develop that car back then, the DTM version. So yeah, the Adelson, Ash, Ludwig and Winkelhock. What a foursome that is. What a quartet that is. Adam Adelson from the States, and a trio of second generation drivers in that. But when Roland Ash says he doesn't believe it and he hasn't seen it and he's shocked about the pace, then you know that this is pretty special.
100%. But you know, when Roland was doing this race, it was a saloon car race, principally the worst in sports car classes, but the cars at the front, you know, look at the ones that won it. BMW 635 CSIs, Ford Sierra Cosworths, BMW M3s. That was the meat and veg of the championship. But now you look at the cars in the pit lane. Yeah, we're looking at a BMW. It's an M4 GT3 sister car to the one that won last year's race. But this one, the number 99 car, spun a quarter of the way, not even a quarter of the way, half around the Grand Prix loop on the opening lap of the race. Since then, the 99 car has been coming back, and replays show that Dan Harper, the driver at the wheel at the time, was completely blameless. So 3 cars, he was on the outside, high on the curb, and could go no further. So round he went and fell to the back of the pack. It is fighting its way back, though.
Valkenhorst Aston Martin, which has led the race. So we've had Aston leading, we've had AMG leading, we've had Ford leading. Did we get the Lamborghini leading? Yes, we did.
We did. Yeah.
So a good variety of cars and manufacturers. So the Valkenhorst car out onto a clear circuit. Coming up to 7:30 here. Nobody yet, even with the rather large numbers of yellows and slow zones, 27 code 60 zones around the circuit at the moment. Nobody has stretched it to a 9-lap stint. Bruce Jones, your thoughts then on the first 4.5 hours that we've seen, and then Johnny Palmer will be in the Global Broadcast Centre.
I think I can safely describe the race as manic, helter-skelter from the very, very outset. You always expected that. The standard at the top of the field, the depth of the top-class cars, SP9 we call them, but these are cars of the GT3 nature, and all the top manufacturers here. The threat of rain, it held off for quite a while, but of course the battle is already sorting itself out according to which tyre company tyres are working the best in the changing conditions. We've heard a little flurry of rain, we've got slow zones, we've got tip-top racing. Max Verstappen came in and hunted like Artemis. He was out there chasing and passing, so all the fans that have come to watch this this might be the first time they've ever seen the Nürburgring 24 Hours. I think we put on a show of colour, of passion, and some fantastic racing. There have been a fair few spills, but having just heard what came through from a quote from Roland Dash, who has obviously raced for decades before handing over to San Sebastian, he sits back, he looks at the size of the crowd, he travels through the crowd, the passion, the newfound fans, but it's the intensity of the racing. Johnny Palmer, as you put your bottom down onto the chair in the commentary booth, it was always going to be flat out from the start, and it's been exactly that.
It's been like that for years, though, hasn't it? And I mean, I know you were remembering the days of it being a touring car affair, but you needed to nurse the cars a little bit through that in order to ensure you were still running 12 hours in to the Nürburgring 24. But the nature of now how a GT3 car is built, it is built to go twice around the clock, and if they don't survive damage, kind of accepting from that, just through the brutal nature of whacking curbs and going closely through traffic, occasionally dropping a wheel or two onto the grass, if you can't then make these cars survive through the 24 hours, then you're not going to win the thing. I mean it's a pretty obvious statement, but until we started to see quite a lot of GT3 manufacturers come in, and we're north of double figures now, they're all able to kind of elevate one another to say, okay, we need to make this a bit more bulletproof, we need to make this a bit quicker. And that's the great thing about this FIA GT3 category now, is that they're all egging one another on to the next victory.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was the Spa 24 Hours, which was part of the GT World Challenge, that became the preeminent GT3 race. And then people looked across, not very far across the border from Belgium to Germany, and they thought, hey, why don't we go and do this at the top end of the classes in the Nürburgring 24 Hours. They're now both rounds of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, which starts its year in